Welcome. Today we're going to be learning how to use Unreal Engine Sequencer to create a short animated film. Let's jump right into it. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to Cinematics and add a new level sequence. And basically what this does is creates almost like a new file. Think of this almost like Premiere Pro or After Effects if you're familiar with video editing software. That's basically this, but in Unreal Engine. In the description, you're going to find a link to download some characters and scene assets, but really you can use pretty much anything. The most important thing is getting a .fbx file of your character, whether it be an animated rig or just some assets. But we're going to drag in Blue Guy here. So let's import that. And now Blue Guy is a rigged character that I made in Cinema 4D, but pretty much anything like Blender, Maya, Cinema 4D will work. Under animation, make sure that import animations is ticked. Let's just import them. And you'll see that a couple files are made. Blue Guy animation is the main one. Basically, this holds all the animation data for a character. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's drag in some more little assets. Let's drag in table scene. Just gonna import that. And let's drag in pointer. Import that. So now that we have all our assets, let's just start building the scene. So this table scene here, I'm just going to drag it in just as you normally would in Unreal Engine. We're going to make sure we're selecting the skeletal mesh of our character, not the animation. And we're just going to drag and drop in our skeletal mesh. Let's line them up real quick. Now, how do we get these guys into our animation? We're going to make sure that whatever we want to play is selected. So in this example, our character, and we're going to go to add and add actor to level sequence. There's a couple options here. This is basically your animation track, which allows you to drag in the animation that was imported previously. So there you see right away, we have the animation that you can scrub through. And that's one of the great things about Sequencer is that you can basically just import your animations and edit them right on a timeline, just like a video editing software. Now, say I want to add a little prop to this guy. Let's take our pointer and drag it right there. And we're going to go over to pointer and make sure that movable is selected. This basically makes it be animated. Now we're going to right click this and attach to Blue Guy. And then we're going to attach it to his right hand. Now basically what this does is that this prop is now attached to the bone in this actor. So when he moves, that prop moves with him. And you can sort of adjust this as you need. Great, so we have our assets in. Let's add a camera so we can actually see what they're doing. We're gonna go ahead and search Cine Camera Actor and drag and drop that in, and you'll see there's a little preview here. This is super useful for sort of adjusting. Now in your sequencer panel, you're gonna add and add camera cut track. And then we're going to search for that camera. So we'll see when we select it, that's camera actor 5. So let's go to add camera actor 5. So basically think of this as sort of like a video section in a video editing software. You can select this little icon over here to lock the camera viewport. Now let's add some keyframes to this camera. We want it to sort of move back from the beginning of the film to the end of it. So we're going to scrub to the beginning. And we're going to position our camera to where we want it. Now, if you're familiar with After Effects, this is sort of the same sort of thing, but under track, we're going to add a new transform track. That's basically saying, hey, we want to animate this guy. So under location, let's just add a new keyframe by selecting that. And that selects the X, Y, and the Z in the world space. So then let's scrub back to maybe about right here. And we're going to move our camera back. And you guessed it, folks, we're going to select location again to basically add a keyframe. And basically with keyframes, you can basically keyframe any object in this scene. So say I want to keyframe this entire boardroom over here. We're just going to make sure that it's clicked, and then we're going to add actor to sequence and add table sequence. And under transform controls, we can then do location and add a keyframe. Move it to the right and add another keyframe. you'll see that during the timeline, it plays out. So this is super useful if you want to add different objects, or even if you want to animate characters in very basic ways in the sequencer. But most of your animation for your characters should be done in a separate 3D animation software. Now let's say we want to add a second camera view to this little animation here. We're just going to drag in and drop another camera. Let's move this guy back so we get sort of a higher view. And then we're going to go to camera and add the camera we just added, and you'll see that it automatically creates sort of a cut. So during the playback of the film, it's going from there to there. So say you have a character and he goes through his animation, but you want to add another animation to him. Well, you can do that by just dragging in a second FBX file of the same character. And when you import it, rather than importing the mesh, you're just going to import the skeleton that is already there. So under skeleton, just select the blue guy that you imported before. Make sure that animation is selected, and we're going to import. And you'll see that a second animation has been created that uses the mesh of the first character. So under sequencer, we're going to go to add animation again, and we're going to select that second animation. Now Unreal Engine has a really nice animation blending built right in. So for the first animation, this is basically saying that with the weight number 1, that's taking the priority. So we're going to select the keyframe over here and the keyframe for the second animation. And on the second animation, we're going to put the priority down to 0 because we want animation 1 to be the first one. And now we're just going to scrub a little bit. We're going to put the priority down to 0 for the first animation, and then up to 1 for the second animation. So that will sort of blend between the two to create a smooth animation between the two. Now say we want to add some effects to the camera. We're just going to select the camera. Let's fill the viewport. And under the camera options over here, there's a bunch of settings you can do. So I'm going to turn off focus settings, but under white balance, you can basically just edit all of this and it'll update right in your viewport. Now, if you're coming from sort of like a traditional animation software, this is super nice because everything runs in real time. So you can basically just edit this on the fly with no render times in between. Now, say you want to export this to sort of a video file. You can click this little icon over here. You have a bunch of render settings that are pretty straightforward. But a good thing to check is to make sure that your start frame and your end frame sort of lines up to what you would like to export. So let's just go to 637 and then just capture movie, save selected, and it'll sort of go through all of the frames and render them out so that you have a video file. Now this is just a very basic look at Sequencer, but it's a very robust platform that you can do a lot with, whether it be animation or you can even build actual games on the back of this system. Thanks for watching.
Don't be a...
Oh, after you, kitty cat.